From a tax control framework perspective, in setting up risk-based controls, the more unusual the transaction, the greater the tax risk. Examples of such non-routine, significant business transactions are the migration to new jurisdictions, the setting up of a centralized business model, outsourcing activities to an internal or external shared service center, and merger and acquisition. This webcast will deal with the migration to new jurisdictions. From risk-based controls, the question is whether these non-routine transactions are properly executed from a tax risk perspective, and what the conditions for success are to make that happen. If VAT actions are not designed and implemented in time, it could not only result in financial, but as well in commercial risks. Slide 3 is about the VAT impact of the migration. For some organizations, a migration might be the first time it has to deal with VAT. Although, probably for most, VAT will already be a familiar concept. Migration to a new jurisdiction will almost always have an impact on the current VAT processes. Misunderstanding or not recognizing the VAT implications of the migration could result in unforeseen costs such as non-recoverable VAT. However, the change of a business model can not only create VAT financial risks, but as well commercial risks as well. For example, logistics problems in getting goods into a country and delays and hold-off of shipments resulting in disruption of daily business. This could come up when the company did not register for VAT or procurement did not agree with suppliers who is importing the goods. Slide 4 is about the VAT status of the entity migrating. Assessing the VAT status of the entity migrating to the new jurisdiction is the starting point. It gives insight whether the migration itself and the subsequent activity in the new location will be VAT neutral or result in a VAT cost. The process to assess the VAT status of the migrating entity is to review the treatment of its activities from a VAT perspective. For example, if it is a pure holding company, a so-called non-VAT entrepreneur, its activities will be outside the scope of VAT. This will result that the company will not be able to register for VAT, and the VAT it incurs will be an additional cost as it cannot be recovered. That hits bottom line. It is therefore essential that from a VAT perspective, the VAT consequences of the migration are determined. Why? In practice, depending on the company's flexibility of course, VAT entrepreneurship might be achieved via restructuring to avoid or limit such a VAT burden. This is, however, only possible if VAT planning is done in time, as correcting status retroactively does not work. Slide 5 is about the conditions for success for a smooth migration. It is important that the steps of the migration are carried out in the most VAT effective manner, subject to commercial and other factors. Some questions that could give some guidance are: how is the tax function involved in the legal structure and transactions? How is the tax function involved in operational changes in EAP implementation and cost reduction? Who is taking care of filing of the VAT registration? When should you apply for VAT registrations, since average lead times in jurisdictions can be several months? The migration could result in that EEP systems have to be updated and tested to reflect new contracts and billing flows. Ownership of these tasks must be determined and communicated upfront, so that the EEP system can accurately issue invoices from day one. A best practice is that VAT is considered in every aspect of the migration process, from concept through completion and beyond. It is all managing change by design, looking at every process and transaction from start to finish and factoring in all the requirements and controls essential to designing and optimizing a compliant VAT process. Slide 6 shows an indirect tax migration checklist. Here are some action points to keep in mind so that they do not become stumbling blocks. First, set up a project charter that will take effect as of the migration activities. Second, validate findings and define priorities. Third, make an indirect tax plan and ensure that the right sponsors provide buy-in. Fourth, map out the current state upon migration and identify key risk areas, opportunities, and stakeholders in the organization. Fifth, jointly validate and refine the migration plan and develop a roadmap to success. Slide 7 describes who we are and what we offer. Phoenix Consulting is a company led by 6 partners and a team of around 30 employees. Our main business focus is to optimize SAP from a tax, financial, and control perspective. We have offices in Amsterdam, Berlin, and Cologne. Slide 8 provides our contact details for further questions. We hope you enjoyed this webcast and hope to hear from you soon. Your feedback is always appreciated.